My name is Angela Davis, and I'm a student at Cornerstone University. This presentation is a case analysis of New Balance Athletic Shoe Company. This case presents a decision that requires consideration and possible changes in New Balance's strategy as it functions within the shoe industry. What should be done differently? Should anything be done differently? This presentation will be very brief, and I will highlight just a couple of areas that will require consideration when it comes to the decision that's required. I will present my hypothesis, provide evidence that supports my hypothesis, suggest an action plan that is very focused and direct. That will be followed by risk analysis, which considers the possibility that my hypothesis is wrong. Before actually going into the presentation, I would like to provide you with some key facts about the athletic shoe and apparel industry. The largest market is the United States when it comes to athletic shoes and apparel. Each year, $32 billion is spent in the industry. Of that $32 billion, the United States accounts for half. In the previous slide, it was noted that $32 billion is spent annually in the athletic shoe and apparel industry. So let's take a look at some of its leaders. The figures that are represented in this screen are figures from 2004, and they are represented in millions of dollars. Now, as you can see, Nike is number one, and they show $13,739,000 in sales for 2004. As we look down the list, you will see the figures for Adidas, Reebok, Puma, New Balance, and Asics. Now, the significance of these dollar figures will come a little later when we talk about cost. As we move along in the presentation, let's consider the changes in the industry that now have come to light that requires New Balance to consider a decision that needs to be made in its strategy and how it functions in the industry. The two areas I would like to highlight, although there are more, these two are the ones I want to bring up in this presentation. And they deal with the acquisition of Reebok by Adidas, and then the competitive environment that becomes a part of reality as this acquisition occurs or as a result of the acquisition. The question again is, should New Balance do something different? And if so, what should they do? We'll investigate that shortly. So here's my hypothesis, or the position statement. New Balance should consider increasing its business with its foreign suppliers. This will create efficiencies in their supply chain management. These efficiencies will include manufacturing and the distribution of its product. These efficiencies would impact time, cost, and product availability. Evidence. Here's my evidence to support my hypothesis. New Balance outsources 75% of its products, and the remaining 25% is produced right here in the United States. I would like to spend a little time focusing in on the 25% of the products that are produced here in the United States. 1/3 of those products are called cut-through assembly products. And for these particular products, the soles and the raw materials are imported from the foreign market, brought over here to the United States so that the product can be finished. This costs New Balance about $13 per pair. And this is certainly a higher cost than a similar pair or a similar product that might be produced in a foreign market. So let's switch and talk about the 2/3, which are called sourced uppers. These products have the soles and the finished uppers imported here to the United States so that that product can be completed here. The cost of this product is, there's a 50 cents difference between the sourced upper and the cut-through assembly product. Understand that both of these products would be cheaper to be manufactured and completed in the foreign market versus being completed here in the United States. We've reviewed sales, cost, and production. So now let's consider my action plan. Efficiencies in New Balance's supply chain can reduce cost. These costs include export and import cost, materials, labor, and overhead costs. My hypothesis required New Balance to increase its business with its foreign suppliers. This, of course, is naturally a part of the action plan. In doing so, it would reduce cost, increase product availability, and decrease the amount of time that it takes for its product to be manufactured and produced, which means that a decrease in that time will allow the product to be available for sale faster. Let's consider the risk analysis. Now, what if I'm wrong? What if my hypothesis is wrong? I talked about cost. I talked about turnaround time. I talked about inefficiencies. So if I'm wrong, then the inefficiencies would continue. New Balance would pay unnecessary cost. They would lose time. And the bottom line is their net income will be impacted. In conclusion, I believe that my hypothesis or my position statement would help New Balance to arrive at the decisions that they need to make in order to move forward and to be viable or to see continued growth in the industry in which they operate in. Addressing the inefficiencies which were identified as being a part of their supply chain, their distribution, and their production will certainly help them to increase the turnaround time for their product, which would also increase product availability and, in essence, decreasing cost. Embracing the action plan which was presented would also affect their bottom line, which is, of course, increase net income. Although this is not a presentation about finances or New Balance's financial situation, it certainly is impacted by the changes that have occurred in the industry with the acquisition of Reebok by Adidas. And it also will address the changes that come about as a result of that acquisition. My final statement is the decision that needs to be made by New Balance is to address those inefficiencies, increase their productivity, which will also help them to realize a higher net income. So this actually brings us to the end of my presentation, and I thank you so very much for watching. Please consider leaving a comment or feedback. Thank you so very much.